Hey, nice of you to show up, you know. Well, I gotta stand here and act cool next to my Cobra. Got a Cobra. Well, part of one. Anyway, come on in here. Let me show you kind of where we're going. This is where the book describes where to place this, the factory style signal stock. So the dashboard, the dashboard itself comes down here and it kind of droops over this area to be lower below the steering wheel. So I guess the idea is this kind of tucks up in that. They describe that you can shorten this stalk by removing or breaking away all of the wiper functions. But because I kept the wiper circuit, I'm leaving that because I believe it can be used with a wiper motor and all of that. So this will stick out a little bit, but it's black, it's gonna blend in, and you know, it doesn't really matter. I don't think it's gonna, you know, break the aesthetics of, you know, seeing a modern stock. It really doesn't stick out that far, so I think it'll kind of fade into the background. So I'm gonna mount this with nut certs. I'm not riveting it or bolting it or anything. The nut certs are nice because if at any time I need to remove this switch, to replace it, maybe it malfunctions, whatever, I just have to unscrew this and drop it down below the dash. So do that, and then the ignition switch is supposed to go somewhere over in this area here. My plan is to use this. I'm gonna try to put a small knob on this so it's easier to grab. But basically, there's accessory, and this is off, and this is on, or you know, accessory key on. This is ready to start, key on, and then you just slide this over, crank the engine, and that's your starting procedure. So what I can do is put a battery cutoff with a removable key by the battery so that, you know, the car can't be stolen. I could wire this to dash buttons, you know, ignition on, push button start, but this is a really heavy duty piece made by Ford, already wired and easy to use. So I like it. If it's hidden up under the dash where you can't see it, somehow, wherever I end up putting it, I can just reach under, squeeze it to on, and good to go. So that is my plan. And you know, like with basically any planning you do, the plans usually do not survive first contact with the enemy, which is, you know, you're not an enemy, but you know, that's the saying. So I'm just saying what the saying says, all right? Get off my back. So anyway, I'm gonna mount this up and figure out where and how to mount this. I've got the headlight switch here that there's a bracket that goes under the dash so you can reach under and, you know, turn on your headlights. You don't have a headlight switch on the dash. You just use the factory. Again, you could, but look at this heavy duty Ford piece that is multifunctional and with dash dimming capabilities, and why would I not use that? Just makes sense. A lot of engineering went into this. The switches on the dash, well, not so much engineering. So I'm I'm going to use as much of the Ford product as possible. It will also make it easier if I have a malfunction. Well, hey, I just need to go get a 1994 Mustang headlight switch, ignition switch. You know, you hear what I'm saying? You picking up what I'm putting down? Okay, I'm going to install this stuff, and then we're going to bleed the brakes and move on. I think it's trunk sheet metal after that. So, all right, let's get going. The first system that came out of that car, and is installed into this car is functional in this car, and that would be the brakes. So I just finished bleeding all the brakes. Unbelievably, there were no leaks anywhere, and they bled out just perfectly. So we'll call that a win. I just expected I would find a seep or a drip or something somewhere, and I'll go back and check it down the road. As I prepare to drive it, I'll just want to make sure everything's working. But it's got fluid in it, and it stops the wheels. I tested it, so very exciting. I also spent a little bit of time mounting some of the systems, like the headlight switch, the plug-in for the whatever code reader, the ignition switch, the wiper, high beam, low beam, you know, turn left, turn right switch. And I also mounted that heater box back up just because I wanted to see where wires needed to go. And also on this side, once I get the engine in, these are some engine harness plugs, and I knew these were going to be in the way. So I'm not sure where I'm going to mount this yet. This is the bracket off the car, which I'm hoping to reuse. But once the engine's in and I see where the wires go, I'll see what works best, and I can do that. But I figured I'd get at least this side in so I can get started on that. So what else? Just mounted a few other systems, hard mounted them in the car, and ran a few, well, I didn't run ground wires. I found all the loose grounds and grounded them to the frame. So those types of things, I don't want to forget. Right now it's fresh in my mind where the ground ends are. And so just make sure that I do that. I had one down here too for the computer. So from here, where do we go from here? Well, I guess we should look in the book for the answer to that question. Let's see what we got. It looks like, so we did the ignition, turn signal stock. See, they don't really show you pictures of it. They just kind of tell you what to do. I didn't mount it using the screws they provided because I wanted to use the nut certs for the ignition and for the turn signal. That way they can come in and out if I need to. I don't have to reach around for a nut, or I don't have to rely on just the bite of a screw going in, a machine screw going in, that square tubing. It's not very thick, so there's not a lot of bite. Using the nut certs, I get more bite, more threads. So that's why I did that. Next thing, trunk aluminum. Well, interesting that we are in the trunk area. That'll be good because then I can figure out getting this mounted and whatnot. Yep, trunk area. Okay, yep. And then the back of the cockpit goes in. Ooh, little sneak peek. Drivetrain preparation. So once we get this trunk area in, it looks like we're on to the drivetrain, which is a part. I have to pop the rear main in it, put the clutch and everything back on, put the bell housing on. Let's just talk about this. Since we're looking at the engine, let's talk about what I'm doing over here. So when I pulled the starter off, from what I could tell, this is the original starter. It's pretty mint. I think I can probably, sell it for hundreds of dollars because it's original. Works. It still started the car. The last time I pulled the car into the shop here before I started taking it apart, that starter started it, no problems. However, I just feel like this was not cheap. In my world, not cheap. It was 200-ish. I don't remember exactly. It's more money that I'm spending on the build, but it's also saving me time. If that is a 30-year-old starter with 80,000 miles on it, well, let's just go ahead and replace it. So I've got the rear main to put in, starter to put in, and then we won't talk too much about that until we get to it, but that's just where we're at with that. So, and the transmission here is ready to be bolted up and modified in whatever way they, everything gets modified, right? You can't just put it in, it has to be modified. So, whatever that is, it's fine. But we're getting there. We're getting there. You might have gotten a little sneak peek as I was test fitting the dashboard just to make sure things were clearancing and what made sense. Of the interior, little glimpse into what I'm doing with the interior. But we will also get into that later. So here's a cat video for your viewing pleasure. Welcome to Storytime with Uncle Eric, the part of the program where we talk about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and try to help crystallize why I'm doing some things, why I'm making the decisions I'm making, and doing things the way that I'm doing them. Back in 1973, Burger King launched the Have It Your Way campaign, where you could build your burger any way you wanted it as a customer. Also in 73, a beautiful baby boy was born that brought laughter and happiness to all who knew him, with the possible exception of a couple of ex-wives, but that was totally 50% their fault. Have it your way. I feel like Factory 5 Racing has done that with their kit cars. However, just as Burger King has always offered the Whopper, Factory 5 has also always allowed you to buy the base kit and a donor car to basically build kind of the cheapest Cobra out there. And this was, it seems like their mission from the very beginning when they started. When I became aware of the company in the early 90s, I had a Fox Body GT. And I just blew my mind that for, at the time, I think 12 grand, you could buy the kit and then take your car and make a Cobra out of it. So when I set about to build this car, that was the seed of the dream for me. Fast forward to, well, today. Fox Body Mustangs have become extremely expensive to buy. The cars that the kit was based off of or for was like the 87 to 93 cars. And the prices are just going up. It's really hard to find a clean one. You can find the parts and pieces, and there are lots of vendors that actually make things to restore these cars that you could use. But for the dream of a donor, it wasn't really feasible anymore. But I did not let that dream stop me, because the 94 and 95 Mustangs use the same engine, the same transmission, the same rear end, the same suspension geometry, the same gas tank, roughly the same-ish wiring harness as the original Fox Body Mustangs did. And the good thing about the SN95 body style is it's kind of the red-headed stepchild of the Fox bodies. In other words, you can buy them quite affordably in comparison, considering they're kind of the same car. I bought Mr. F for, I don't know why that's his name. Okay, just stop asking me. I don't know. That's just his name. Mr. F, I bought for $10,000. He had good paint, like corrosion-free, leather interior, 5.0, 5-speed. The engine had been built recently by a professional speed shop. So money had been spent on the car. And if I were to take all of those descriptions and put them in, say, a 93 Fox Body, I would be looking in the plus $20,000 range. And I really couldn't tear it apart. I couldn't tear that car apart. between you and me, just seriously for a minute, it was very difficult for me to take apart the 94. It was painful. I wrestled with the decision for a while, but ultimately it made sense, because for $10,000, I was able to get all the parts and pieces that I needed to build my Cobra. Ford made a bajillion of these cars, and again, right now at least, they're not extremely popular. And another benefit, or some benefits, that the 94-95 have over the original Fox body is 5-lug wheels and tires, 4-wheel disc brakes, standard. The only disc brakes and 5-lug you could get in the Fox body was the 93 Cobra, which of course nobody's going to use as a donor car. And also it would cost you 40 grand or something to buy one with 80,000 miles on it in this kind of shape. That would never happen. So it was the right choice, but a lot of times the right choice still makes you a little sad to have to make it. So having said all of that, keep moving around on me. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, just like the Have It Your Way campaign that Burger King put out, there is no wrong way to build a burger. It all comes down to personal taste. With Factory 5, you can build it with an LS motor, with a Coyote motor, with a 302, with a 351, with a 429. Tons of choices. Transmissions, TKO, TKX, T5, the list goes on. Rear ends, 8.8, a built 9-inch rear end, a independent rear suspension. You can choose aftermarket brakes from Wildwood. You can use standard brakes off of a donor car, or parts that would fit on whatever year vehicle you're trying to build. What are some other choices? You can do heat or no heat. You can do wipers or no wipers. You can do wind wings. You can do chrome roll hoops and side pipes, or you can paint them yourself, or you can get a powder coated frame or a bare frame. You can choose what wheels you want. You can choose your color. You can choose your gauges. It all comes down to taste. But for me, my dream and my passion is to use as much as I can out of a running, driving donor vehicle and build a Cobra that way. So I'm not like replacing all the brake components, because they work just fine when I parked the Mustang in the shop for the last time. I'm not doing anything more with the engine other than replacing the rear main because it was leaking. I'm using as many components that Ford made as possible for this project. Gas tank, wiring harness, switches, e-brake handle, all of the things. My goal is to see how few things I have to buy. Now, there is an exception, or a few exceptions, but they're my exceptions. I'm doing something different with the interior. I don't have to spend money on that. I can use Factory 5 stock interior. I could do that. I'm not reusing the wheels from the Mustang. I am buying the wheels that I want. What are some other things that I'm doing? But I did save some money on, like, I'm Cerakoting the side pipes myself. And I went with the powder coated rear hoop, roll hoop, not the chrome. So, you know, I saved myself here, but I'm spending over here. And also I hope to recoup some of the costs by selling some parts and pieces and the body from the original donor car, which is perfectly good. So we'll see. We'll talk about how the money works out later, but for now, this is why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, and why you would do things the way you're doing, because maybe you like avocado on your burger. I don't know. Maybe you like bacon. Maybe you don't like cheese. It's your choice. It's your burger. So whatever you're doing, enjoy it. And I hope you enjoy this process as, as I build it my way. Oh, it's making me hungry. I gotta go get something to eat.